and welcome to the Habits and Home Show. I'm your host, Lisa Lazat, and I help busy moms bring order to their homes by downsizing and decluttering and ditching old habits in exchange for systems that bring peace and more enjoyment to their lives. If you're a mom trying to show the love of Jesus to your family, but the clutter in your home keeps you overwhelmed and frustrated, you have come to the right place. On this podcast, you will hear easy, step-by-step tips to declutter and create systems so you can keep your home organized and finally walk in the peace God has promised you. Need some accountability? I've got you covered there too. Join the Accountability Club, a community of like-minded mamas decluttering and systemizing our homes together. Are you ready, friend? Let's get started. Hey friends, and welcome to the show. We're starting up a new challenge inside the Accountability Club for the month of February. And every February, we tackle our paper clutter. So yesterday we had our first coaching call. It's a group coaching call. And in that first call of the month, we do what I call a power hour, where we focus on whatever the theme is for the month. And we're all working on that same project. So for this month, it was our paper clutter. In the beginning of that call, I walked them through the steps that I take to get clarity over my paper clutter. And I took them through that. We got a little bit of coaching afterwards, and I continued revamping and refreshing my paper clutter or my paper management system after our call. And so I was sitting there last night marking off my checklist of all the things that I wanted to print off and have inside our family emergency box. And I was sitting there thinking about, while I'm going through this process, I am setting my children up to be able to learn this system from me when they have households and they're managing their own homes, to be able to ask me, hey mom, how do I manage my paperwork? How do I keep things organized? And maybe they don't even ask. Maybe when they get new homes, I come alongside of them and say, okay, this is how we do life. And so I was sitting there thinking about training up our children, training up a child in the way that they should go. And a lot of us have heard that verse, that Bible verse in the past. We may have grown up learning it, memorizing it. We may have thought about it as we became parents. And a lot of the times we reference that verse thinking about training up a child in their Christian life, learning Bible verses, going to church, learning spiritual things. And so I got to thinking about that, and I really feel like we can apply that into other areas of our life. And so I don't really want to sensationalize scripture, but I do feel like all scripture is given to edify our lives. And so I want to just dive in a little bit deeper in that topic of training up our children in the way that they should go. So I'm going to share a couple of scriptures with you, and then I'm going to share my take on them. So let's just kind of go over what I just said. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from that. So let's think about habits. When we train our children young in their habits, they don't know any different. If you've been training them along and along to make their beds, they think that is a normal thing. If you train them to eat breakfast before they go to school, they know that that is a normal thing to do. And so I really believe that if we take the time and really think about, and a lot of us don't take the time to think. We're just living in reaction mode all of the time, right? Because we're so busy, we're so overwhelmed with life. We're just living in reactive mode, instead of really thinking about the job and the role that we are playing in our children's life. So train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So in these foundational years, we have such an opportunity to set our kids up for success, not just with worldly success, but with in their home, to be a successful husband and wife, to be a successful mom, to manage your home successfully. And you might be, as a mom, in this where you didn't get that training. You didn't. And I hear this from a lot of my clients. When I get on a consultation with them before we get started in our coaching, they tell me, I was not raised learning these habits. I was not raised learning these skills. I don't know how to manage a home. I don't know how to take all these moving parts and all these plates that are spinning and keep them going all the time. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to do this. Maybe your mom didn't set that example for you, or maybe your mom did set that example, but she didn't offload those tasks to you. So you don't have any muscle memory of those habits and of those homemaking skills. Okay, so we want to feel convicted, right? This episode is not to make you feel bad, but to bring awareness that we need to open our eyes to opportunities in our home to where we can train our children in good homemaking, homekeeping skills. Now, this is not just homemaking skills and homekeeping. Is not just a woman's duty and not just a woman's job. You can train your boys. You can train your boys to do their laundry. I'm sure their future wives will appreciate that. So please don't think this is just a woman's role or a woman's, girl's thing to do. My husband and all my boys do their own laundry. They also wash their own dishes. They also pick up their own shoes and put them away. They also, when they're hanging out in the living room, they pick up their trash and they put it away and they clean up and they reset. Okay. So this is not just, a woman's thing or ladies passing skills down to girls. This is across the board. It would be a great thing for you to train your children of any gender, okay? So I do want to, say this verse again, but in the Christian Standard Bible, because I felt like it was a good translation. Start a youth out on his way. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. I love that. Start a youth out on his way. So these foundational years, I would say 0 through 18 at least, you might have your children a little bit longer, you might have them a little bit shorter, but starting them out in the way that you want them to go, like foresee them living a life without you. And if you could paint that picture, what skills would you want them to have? What struggles would you not want them to struggle with? And let's go ahead and take that opportunity to train them now. So speaking of that role that we have and that calling and that mandate for us as mothers to train our children, I love what Titus 2 says. And I refer to this often in my own work because when we become adults, I wish I had my mom. I don't have a mom. I do. She's in heaven. I lost her. My son is 11, so I lost her 11 years ago. And I wish I could say, Mama, can you come here and just teach me? Can you come here and teach me the ways of homemaking? Can you come alongside of me and teach me how to schedule? Can you teach me how to zone clean and keep up with my house? Can you please teach me? And so I don't necessarily feel like I'm mama to my clients, but I feel called. I just feel called by the Lord to come alongside of you. And those of you who want that extra coaching and accountability and that slow training of good homemaking habits, it's just such a beautiful relationship that we form. Okay, so Titus 2, I often think about this. So I'm going to read this to you. Verse 1. But you are to proclaim things consistent with sound teaching. Older men are to be self-controlled, worthy of respect, sensible, and sound in faith, love, and endurance. And in the same way, older women are to be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not slaves to excessive drinking. They are to teach what is good, so that they may encourage the young women, and I'm going to say boys as well, to love their husbands and their wives, and to love their children, to be self-controlled, pure, workers at home, kind, and in submission to their husbands, so that God's word will not be slandered. In the same way, encourage young men to be self-controlled. In everything, make yourself an example of good works, with integrity and dignity in your teaching. Your message is to be sound beyond reproach, so that any opponent will be ashamed because he doesn't have anything bad to say about us. We as older women should come alongside of our younger women and our younger men while they're in our care and teach them. I mean, that's how the young learn. That's how they learn to read. That's how they learn to talk. When your child was a newborn, you were repeating over and over, mama, mama, mama. And that's how he learned to talk. How else is he going to learn to make his bed than you repeating it over and over and over? And yes, you are going to feel like you want to pull your hair out. I mean, just this morning, I was talking with my 14-year-old and I went up to his bedroom because I knew they hadn't made their bed. And I just kind of did a glance over and I said, hey, buddy, you hadn't made your bed. He's like, well, you didn't tell me to. I was like, dude, we've been doing this for okay, you're 14 since you were 4. You should know that I expect you to make your bed by now. But friends, you just have to keep on keeping on, okay? This is hard work. This is a labor of love for sure. All right, so what happens if we don't? What happens if we don't pay attention to our kids' habits, their self-care, their homekeeping habits? What happens? So I love this verse in Proverbs 29:15. A rod of correction imparts wisdom, but a youth left to himself is a disgrace to his mother. Is it a disgrace? Not necessarily a disgrace, but it does make us feel like we failed, right? So if a youth is left to himself, we are going to feel like we failed as mothers. Kids don't know how to raise themselves, okay? God gave children to us. We are the ones that have had all of the life experience. We are the ones that hopefully have the wisdom to impart on our children. So a child left to himself, and in our generation, that's really easy to do with the technology that we have. We can just let them get on the TV and we'll just take care of everything because we either don't want them in our way, we don't want them to argue with us, we don't want to fight with them. But truly, I have seen in the past where my kids have gotten kind of soured on TV and soured on technology, like their phones or devices or their games. And when we have taken them away and done like a fast, it takes a couple of days to detox. I will say that. But after we've done that, they are the most pleasant and peaceful children. So I know this in our generation, it's really easy to just have technology to babysit our kids. And we don't want to put in the work. And maybe putting in the work means they're going to create an even bigger mess, or they're going to take forever to do the task, or it's just not going to be done the way we want to do it. And so then we jump in because we have control issues or we have perfection issues. And so we just do it ourselves. But I want to tell you that the training, it is worth it. It is worth the struggle. Taking the time to train your kids, turning off the TV, turning off what's easy, not doing it just yourself is worth it. I remember when I started having my kids make their beds. It was about 2.5, 3 years old when I started training them. Okay, let's make our bed, pull up the sheets. And I actually have I would have to find it, but pictures of my daughter and my son. They shared a bedroom, and she was 4 and he was 2, or maybe she was 5 and he was 3. I don't remember. And it showed her, I took a picture of her bed and it was perfectly made and the covers were pulled up just perfect. And then my son, he had just gotten started and he pulled up his covers and they were hanging off the side. And I remember having to talk myself, really coach myself from fixing his covers. And I was like, no, I'm not going to fix it because the daily training, the daily practice of this habit, he is naturally going to get better. And now as a 14-year-old, he makes his bed. And when he does make it, I do have them make their bed every day, every morning before school. I was just watching him today and he was he was more meticulous about making his bed because he started so young and he knows he he's had practice. He knows what it's supposed to look like. He is convicted, or he feels compelled to make it look right. Okay. Now, I'm not going to say across the board that every single child after 10 years of making their bed is going to make it perfectly. I'm not saying that because, some children, they just don't care, or they're just lazy, or they're just doing it fast, or they're just ADHD and they're just like, blah. So what I'm saying, what I'm trying to get to is back to the Proverbs 29:15. A youth left to himself will disgrace or bring, sadness to us. So let's not leave them to their own, their own selves. Let's actually make them do what they don't want to do. Okay, so that brings me to Hebrews 12, which talks about discipline. Now, I'm not talking about like spankings or, just corporal punishment or things like that. I'm not talking about like punishments necessarily. I'm talking about like the discipline, like disciplining ourselves is, that's where the word disciple comes from. A disciple is somebody who comes alongside a teacher and you are imparting wisdom on that person. So I want you to think of your children as your little disciples, and you have to discipline them. It is an act of discipline, an act of work, an act of like laying down your flesh and laying down what you desire for the sake of doing what is right. Okay, so let's talk about Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems enjoyable at the time. No, it doesn't. When I tell my son, hey, turn off the TV and, come in here and wash it or put the dishes away, it's not enjoyable. Nobody wants to do that. Later on, however, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Discipline produces righteousness. Discipline, when you lay down your flesh and you lay down your own desires and you do what is right, it does feel better in the long run. Like when my son comes home from school today and he sees that his bed is made, he's going to be like, oh, I'm so glad that I made that this morning. That feels a lot better. Now, is he going to vocalize that? Not necessarily. Now, me as a mom, when I discipline myself to reset my kitchen at night, I wake up in the morning and my kitchen is reset. Then I am shouting with joy, thank you, Lisa, for doing that the night before. So keep that in mind. Like, you are disciplining your own self to do things right now so that your later self can benefit from it. So how do we take action on this? I want you to let this motivate you. I want it to motivate you to establish better homemaking habits for yourself first. It's really hard to pluck the beam or the plank out of somebody else's eye when you have one sticking out of your own eye. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to get yourself completely perfect and do everything right before you can train your children. I want you to start with yourself, but you can come alongside of them and bring them alongside of you while you're learning yourself. So it all starts with you. Lead by example. Get that conviction of like, man, I have just been letting myself go to waste. I have been ignoring, I have been vegging out on my phone, scrolling social media because it feels good and I'm getting those dopamine hits all the time, right? And so those things feel good, but I want you to discipline yourself because you know that it leads to righteousness. You know that it leads to rightness. It leads to rightness in your life. And rightness brings joy. It brings peace. It brings clarity. It brings comfort and security. Rightness, okay? So discipline yourself for future rightness. So teach your children alongside of you while you are learning, and humble yourself. Y'all, it's hard. It's hard to humble yourself and say, man, I have not been doing this very well. Maybe have a conversation with them and just say, y'all, I am so sorry. I have just been drowning. I don't know how to do this whole motherhood thing. I tell my kids, I've been telling them that from an early age. Y'all, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing this whole motherhood thing for the first time. Like, you know how like you're living for the first time as a kid? I'm being a mom for the first time. So you're going to have to just forgive me. I am not doing everything right. And I am very quick to ask for forgiveness with my kids. My dad, hardly ever. I don't even remember I'm sorry come out of his mouth. But I knew this new legacy for my kids. I want them to hear, hey, I'm sorry. I'm doing this for the first time. I have no clue what I'm doing. And thank you for giving me grace. So just ask for their help, ask for their accountability, share with them what you struggle with, share with them that you struggle to be consistent. And it's okay that if you get off track, to get back on track. Your children need you. Okay. They need whatever you can give them. All right. Why else? Or what other actions do we need to take? If you're already doing things for your kids, start offloading those things. I was talking with one of my clients last week about her laundry system, and she has teenagers. I think they're 14 and 17. And we were talking about her laundry system and how she can keep up with laundry. And I said, hey, can we train your children to now participate in your laundry routine? She's like, yeah, I don't know why I've never done that. And so it was kind of like an aha moment for her, not a shameful moment, but an aha moment where I could help walk her through what that looks like to transition from you doing the laundry all the time to now your children being a part of the process, and how you manage all of that and let that go and let that perfection go. Right? Okay, so why? Why should we do all this? We probably already have some reasons in our mind why we should train up our kids, but I want to share with some with you. Your children will feel more prepared when they begin making their own homes. They are going to feel like, okay, I saw how mom managed the house. I feel like I'm walking into the battle like well prepared. Right? We don't send our kids into battle without arming them. So right now you should be arming your children with homemaking skills, right? You are preparing them for their future spouses. You're preparing them for their future kids, for them to then impart wisdom and training on their future kids. And you are training them to be contributors to their churches and to their future communities. Okay? We want to instill these good habits and good skills in our children, because they are going to bleed over into other parts of their lives, not just in their home. You are setting them up to better manage their home and their lives. You are teaching them how to manage their time. You are teaching them how to manage their money, how to have self-control over what they buy. All of it starts right in the home. Okay? It doesn't start outside of the home. It starts in the home. You are teaching them to be people who are more calm, more secure, and have better clarity and self-control. People who have security in their home, they are typically calmer people. They are typically more people of sound mind, right? So please know that your training of your children, whether, and start small. Don't think you have to revamp everything. Start with just one thing, right? When I teach my children to make their beds, or I tell my children to make their beds in the morning, I am just going to trust that is going to contribute to other things in their lives. Not just because my home is pretty and is put together in case guests arrive. No, I am going to trust that daily training of these homemaking habits is going to bleed into other parts of their life. The training of your children isn't hard, but it is hard work. It is hard, steady work. It's hard to stay consistent when you yourself struggle with consistency in your own habits. It's hard to stay consistent and focus when your home is already cluttered. That's why I encourage y'all to minimize your home. Get your home to your own personal capacity. Don't look at the homes around you or the homes on the internet or social media. Don't compare your home and think, oh, I got to fill it up because that's the standard. No, the standard is your own capacity. And my capacity is very low. My capacity is very, very low. So I have a low volume of inventory in my home because that's the volume that I need to be able to manage my home well and to be able to focus on my children and the training of my children. So I really encourage you to minimize what you're already managing in your home so that you can manage what's most important in your life better. And what's better is the raising and the training of your children. All right, friends, I hope you take something away from this and apply it immediately to your life. Remember, immediate obedience. I'm not saying that you're obeying me at all, but when the Lord brings something to your mind, whether it's conviction or prompting, I want you to act in immediate obedience, because that is going to solidify that knowledge and that wisdom that He is trying to impart on you, and it's going to lead to rightness. All right, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you right here next time on the Habits at Home Show. Hey friend, before you go, I wanted to tell you more about the Accountability Club. Each month, we'll tackle a new space in our homes and work together to declutter and set up systems so we can easily maintain order without getting overwhelmed. You'll get a new decluttering tutorial each month, the coaching and accountability you need to actually follow through, and encouragement without judgment from other Christian moms in a safe environment. And guess what? The entire club is off of social media, so you don't have to worry about distractions the world may throw at you. Sweet friend, if you're feeling stuck in your decluttering journey, this is the place for you. Click the link below to try out the Accountability Club and start decluttering today.